Hiya! Welcome to Records Roundup number 28. I had to think then for a second. One of these days I'll completely say the wrong number because I've just done so many of these and plan to do many more because I love collecting records and other music formats. And we can start with a different format today. I'm going to show you a new release from one of my favourite bands. They're a duo now, that's your first clue. This is their brand new studio album, first one in a good few years, and the first one as a duo. I'm of course talking about Depeche Mode and their new album Memento Mori. So this is the deluxe digibook, I think they call it, CD that was bought from Mute Bank. I pre-ordered it when it was first announced. I think, was it January or early February this was announced. Long awaited new album from Depeche Mode. I've deliberately not listened too much from this album yet. Songs have been not leaking, but being sort of issued as kind of promotional releases and that sort of thing. As is often the case with bands that I particularly like, I just want to hear the whole album as it's meant to be heard, really. One track I've heard is the first single of the album, if you can say it's a single, as it hasn't had a physical release, at least not to the general public, and that's the excellent Ghosts Again. If that's a taster of how the album is, then I think I'm going to really like this, because I will admit I'm more a fan of 80s and early 90s Depeche Mode. A lot of their stuff from the 2000s and 2010s I've collected, and some of it's great, but there's a lot of stuff that I think's a little bit like filler, really. So I'm hoping this is kind of a return to form, really. Of course, it's the first Depeche album to be made after the tragic passing last year of Fletch, the original keyboardist, Andrew Fletcher. Dave Gahan, Martin Gore, now the core duo in Depeche Mode. No doubt there's session musicians and producers contributing to this as well. I will get this open actually, as you can see that I've had this for a couple of days or so now. I've not listened to it yet. I'm really keen to listen to this, so out of everything that I'm showing you today, I think this will be the first on the list, really. Here's your digibook, as they call it. There we are, right away, a tribute to Fletch there. And then we've got some nice photos, we've got lyrics. I won't stand here showing you all this in great detail. At the back, we've got the CD. So I only collect Depeche Mode on CD, although I did used to have some Depeche Mode mini discs that cost me quite a lot, but I actually sold them and made a really good profit. And then I just replaced the mini disc albums that I had with far cheaper CD versions. Of course, this album is out on vinyl, it's out on standard black, and I think there's a red vinyl edition as well. And I think it's the first Depeche album that's come out for many years on cassette. You hipsters and your cassettes. But just to kind of keep my collection sort of more uniform, I thought I'd get the deluxe CD as opposed to a standard CD version, but there's no extra discs or anything. The deluxe moniker is of course referring to the packaging here and the extra photos and stuff inside the book itself. Will I ever get any Depeche Mode on vinyl? I'd never say never, but I'm not intending to get any of the albums. I have doubled up for acts like New Order and Rammstein, and I've got an album to show you in a bit that's also doubling up in a collection. The only Depeche releases on record that I was tempted by was their 12-inch singles box sets that they've been releasing for every album since the first one. But regardless of the price, some of those are really expensive. But the main issue for me was that if I'd got all those box sets, because I wouldn't just want one, I'd want the whole lot, then I don't know where I'd put them. It's difficult to find room for box sets when I buy them occasionally, really. So much as I liked those, which obviously reissued all of Depeche Mode singles in these really nice boxes, and you got all the remixes and stuff, you know, the majority of which I'll have never heard before, I couldn't really warrant the house room for them. Depeche Mode on CD, their brand new album, very anticipated by the fan base and certainly anticipated by me, Memento Mori.
Hellos, goodbyes, 1,000 midnights, lost in sleepless lullabies. Heavens, dreaming, thought the stars, my friends. We know we'll be ghosts again.
That's it for CDs today, but I've got 4 albums on wax to show you. A couple of pickups from Discogs here. The first one, again, only arrived a few days ago, not listened to it yet. It's classed as near mint, unplayed, but it was open. Still got the hype sticker on, as you can see. The Smiths, The World Won't Listen. So I mentioned this quite some time ago when I was building up my Smiths collection, and I've got all the studio albums. Then I've got Rank and Not Louder Than Bombs, the other Hatful of Hollow, yeah, that compilation. And I said this is the one compilation from that initial era where the Smiths were still going, or they maybe had just split up when this came out, I'm not sure. But this was the one compilation album that I've not got from the Smiths, and I wasn't in too much of a rush for it because it's very similar to Louder Than Bombs, which I've owned now for probably about 2.5, 3 years nearly. I always said if I saw this at a good price, I'd get it, and it was a good price on Discogs, including postage. It was just a little over £30, and it is a 2-discer as well, and it's one of the 2012 reissues. As it's already open, I'll quickly show you one of the records, but not much to look at as it's standard black vinyl, and the inner sleeves here are a little bit minimalist, although it does have lyrics if you can read text that small. I can't without my glasses, certainly. So yeah, there we are. I don't know if that's disc 1 or 2 really. I think that might be disc 2 actually, but it doesn't matter, they both look pretty much the same. Happy to get this. I think it has got a couple of tracks on it that are kind of exclusive to this album, but it's more just sort of like edits of previous singles, and then different versions are on different compilations, be it Hatful of Hollow, although that's an earlier compilation. It's more sort of comparable to Louder Than Bombs. Big Smiths fans will know was initially a US only compilation, but it was sought after in the UK, so it eventually got a release here as well. It just completes the Smiths collection really for me. I know there is other greatest hits and singles compilations that came out on vinyl in the 1990s, but I've looked at the prices of those on Discogs and they're not worth getting when I've got all the tracks now anyway. So there we are. Moz and the Lads, The World Won't Listen.
Shoplifters of the world, unite and take over. Shoplifters of the world, hand it over, hand it over, hand it over.
Another Discogs purchase, this one from a record store, I think in the UK somewhere. If you could hark back to, was it the last Records Roundup or the one before, I'd bought the Emigrate album, The Persistence of Memory. It was a really good price, about £10 and a few pence, free postage on Amazon. And I said I would like to double up on the Emigrate albums because I already have them all on CD. Emigrate, of course, being Richard Kruspe from Rammstein's project. I said if I see any at a good price. This one was, I think, only about £18 or £19, and then with about another £4 or £5 in postage, it was still well under 25. And I thought, yeah, that's still more than double what I paid for The Persistence of Memory. But this is an older album. It's Emigrate's 3rd studio album. It is A Million Degrees. And look, Richard McCook. I can't believe it. I watched a Richard McCook video not too long ago, and someone had sent him some VCLT, and it came in one of these gatefold protectors, and he said he'd never seen one of these gatefold protectors before. Richard, how long have you been collecting? You've probably been collecting albums since before I was born, and you've never seen one of these before. Oh dear. How the other half live, or don't in this case. Anyway, enough about that. Just pulling Richard's leg there. A Million Degrees, Emigrate, their 3rd album. I thought this was a good price. All the other editions on eBay and Discogs were pretty much double at least, and also from European sellers, so there would have been taxes as well. I didn't really want to leave this on Discogs for someone else to snap up, as I doubt it had come around very cheap within the UK anywhere in the near future. There again, this one was classed as pre-owned, second-hand, whatever you want to call it. Looks like a load of books. Yeah, it is a load of books in the middle of the gatefold there. It's on standard black vinyl, I won't bother showing you, even though obviously this album is unsealed. I have heard the album because I've had it on CD since it came out in 2018, but of course I will listen to the LP version very soon. Not a high priority as I already own the album, but thought I'd get this and keep my Rammstein related vinyl collection going. There is still 2 more Emigrate albums, the first and the second one. The second one, I did actually buy that, or I thought I had, from a seller in Poland. And then he sent me a very nice message, actually, really apologetic, pretty much straight after, giving me a refund and saying, oh, I'm sorry, I've got to give you a refund because I sold this copy at a record fair this weekend and I haven't got round to updating my Discogs listings yet. And I just replied saying, well, thanks for letting me know and for the quick refund. From Poland, there would have been a bit of taxes. It wasn't exactly, it was a bit more than what I really wanted to pay, but there again, it was the cheapest I'd seen it. In a way, I was kind of glad I got refunded, as I don't need it really. Maybe I'll pick it up. The first one, I don't think I'm ever going to own that on vinyl because only a few signed copies came out via German Amazon, signed by Richard Krusper, of course. Anyway, that is A Million Degrees from Emigrate.
Drag me down, baby, gonna drag me down to the underground. Why don't you? Down, baby, drag me down, won't make a sound. I want you to. Drag me down, baby, drag me down, carry your crown. If I can go to. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful. Are you ready for the fall? We disintegrate in love.
And finally, we can finish with a mail opening, and this is yet more mail from the almighty Juno Records. I sing the praises of Juno every time I do one of these videos now. If you're in the UK and you're collecting records and you've not checked out Juno yet, then you've got no common sense, in my opinion. I don't know why you're not checking them out. The choice they have is phenomenal. And once again, I actually ordered these albums, there's 2 in here by the way, yesterday. It was yesterday afternoon and they've got here today. And that is with Juno's standard lowest price shipping option. Their lowest shipping option is first class. You can pay a bit more for like tracked on next day guaranteed before 1 PM or something like that. But I think almost every time I've ordered from Juno, and I have ordered from them quite a few times now over the last year and a half, almost every time my orders come the next day. Maybe there was once or twice that it came a couple of days after. So if you're looking for records and you want them for whatever reason as soon as possible, then I would really recommend Juno. But apart from that, I think the prices are competitive and the choice is absolutely marvellous. So let's get these open. Good prices for these. I think one was about £14 and then one was about £16 something. So including about £5 in postage. This order was under £35 for 2 brand new and sealed albums. And it's 2 more for the Italo Disco collection. And yes, it's another one in the Greatest Hits and Remixes series from ZYX Music, the German label probably most associated with Italo Disco really. And this is from an act called Scotch. Once again, this was a case of me just looking at what was available, looking at the Italo Disco tag on there, and this coming up, seeing that it was a ZYX release and seeing it was a good price. And then I was able to stream all the tracks or bits of all the tracks. You don't get a full track when you're streaming on the Juno media player for obvious reasons. And you only need to listen to a few seconds of each really to realise whether you want something or not. And this sounded great, and I thought, yeah, Scotch, Greatest Hits and Remixes, I'm going to get this and add it to the Italo collection today. I think there are quite a few hits in Europe. There may be some information on screen about that. There again, this sort of thing didn't really hit here in the UK, which is a shame really, but in other ways it's not a shame, because then it means it's kind of like a cult sort of music for any British fans. Yeah, I can be a bit of a hipster and say, oh yeah, I'm into Italo, and everyone's like, oh, well, what's that? We never really got that here. We did get it in dribs and drabs. Baltimore, who else could you class as Italo who had hits over here? Annika, the Japanese boy? I don't know if that'd be... Anyway, so yeah, gaudy sleeve really, but in keeping with the sort of slightly cheap and cheerful Italo aesthetic from the 1980s. I loved what I heard on this, and I'm really excited to hear this whole compilation album. So that's Scotch, Greatest Hits and Remixes.
Baby, baby, you're my reading, you're my
And the other album from Juno in this package here that I've opened is another one in Greatest Hits and Remixes, namely Volume 2 from Valerie Dore. Now, I couldn't find Volume 1 on the website, but in a way I think I'm glad that they only had Volume 2, because Volume 1, when I did my research on the Discogs database, is the like 12-inch versions and stuff, whereas I think it says actually, yeah, the 7-inch versions for Valerie Dore here. So there's really more tracks on here. Some of these compilations from ZYX, some of them I've got like the 12-inch and extended versions, some of them I've got the 7-inch. It doesn't really matter, I'll just get whatever's available, but in a way I'm glad this one was available, just because there's more on it for me to discover. Once again, like with Scotch, listened to bits of the tracks on the media player on the Juno website and loved it. Valerie Dore, this is the singer, real name's on screen. It's kind of her pseudonym, but it also kind of maybe refers to the production team who were working with her throughout the years as well. She had a lot of hits in her home nation of Italy and across Europe as well. I hopefully will be able to play a bit of her single Lancelot in a moment. I fell in love with that track, that sounds so good. Some people would listen to Italo and just find it a bit cheesy and kind of cheap sounding, and that's kind of the charm for me, but it's the granddaddy, maybe not the granddaddy, but the daddy of Euro dance and high energy and, you know, good 90s and beyond Euro pop. Quite a nice cover this, without being too exciting, and it's got one of those I Love Italo Disco stickers on there as well that often come on these ZYX albums. So that's Valerie Dore with her Volume 2 of her Greatest Hits and Remixes. Lovely stuff. And that's Records Roundup 28 done and dusted. Some really nice stuff here. Obviously Depeche Mode really is the big ticket item in relation to it being a brand new album that's come out very recently. I received it on release day. It's from one of my all-time favourite bands. I certainly will be listening to that one first. But I'm really happy that I've added a couple more Italo Disco albums to my collection from Juno. I will be looking for more. Maybe more will be added. There is plenty of others out there, not just in the ZYX label as well, but from other labels. Maybe I'll take a punt on even some more modern reinterpretations of Italo, but we'll see in the future. And of course there's Emigrate and the Smiths there as well. I want to say special thanks to all of my wonderful subscribers and my generous patrons, and I want to ask you to please look at my Patreon link down in the description text box. Also, there's my Facebook group link, referrals for such sites as HMV and Urban Jungle Contents Insurance. I'm going to go now. I've already told you what I'm going to listen to first. This very nicely packaged CD, digibook, deluxe version, Memento Mori, Depeche Mode are back. They've been gone too long. Well, they've been gone a few years anyway, which is really too long, as when you've got a favourite band or one of your favourite acts, you just want them to keep pumping music out, but it's not always possible, is it? And of course they've had some tragedy in the last year or so as well with the loss of Fletch, but they are back and I'm happy about that. So I'm going to go away and listen to that now, and I do hope that all of you will join me again next time for my next Records Roundup and music collecting video. Cheers everyone. See ya!